Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. We've got an interesting one here today from Ormsby Guitars. But first, before we get into this, let's discuss what Ormsby is. Ormsby was a company started by a guy named Perry Ormsby around 2003-2004-ish, if I'm reading the website correctly. And this is a company out of Perth, Australia that employs about 9 people. That's the entire team, so this is kind of a small project, really. But through the help of social media, they've actually been able to gather quite a name for themselves. Perry started the woodworking business as a carpenter. He eventually moved into cabinets, won some awards for that, but he just kind of grew tired of it and knew that he wanted to do electric guitars. So the very first Ormsby guitar is nicknamed the Vine, but it just has some beautifully figured woods and has a bunch of inlays. But now this company offers both custom shop guitars that he and his team builds, as well as production level instruments that are outsourced just using his designs. This particular one is called the Shark, and it's a production run guitar, so this is definitely not even the highest end of what Ormsby's able to create. So Ormsby was kind of a guitar that I've always heard of, but never thought I would actually get the chance to own one of these or see one in person, mainly because I'm more of a traditional guitar guy. I think one of their more popular designs is the headless Goliath shape. But on the screen, you can see all the different types of body styles that they do offer. I think even in the custom shop, they'll build you pretty much whatever you want. Let me just take a look at Jared Dines' 18-string guitar. Yeah, that was Ormsby. But this company seems to pertain mainly to like the metal scene simply because of the guitars that they produce. They specialize in 7 and 8 strings with the multi-scale lengths going on with the fan frets, baritone guitars. They also do 6 strings. I mean, this is proof of that. This is a 6 string. And I chose this guitar because I figured if I got a fan fret multi-scaled guitar that had more than 6 strings, I would just be so overwhelmed. What can we really talk about here? So I went with the 6 string so we can fully understand what this is actually doing. A lot of people confuse fan fret with true temperament fret. Fan frets are something that you have to do out of necessity when you have a multi-scaled instrument. So take a look at this nut here. You see it's slanted. Normally a nut is straight across and that starts your scale length. But now take a look at our bridge. This is also slanted. This is not just a stylistic design. This actually changes the scale length of your guitar. And you're gonna notice this one's going this way, but if you move it up here, oh, the nut is going the opposite way. So this is not just a standard 25.5-inch scale length. Your bottom strings are actually longer. So you essentially have a baritone guitar on the bottom strings, but a regular like Fender style scale on the rest of them. So what that does is it eats up all the flub of these lower strings. So these multi-scaled guitars are really great for drop tuning. And that's not just for metal playing either. There's a bunch of alternate tuning stuff that you can do with that. So while not being a traditional guitar and looking a little bit goofy, how does it actually feel to play one of these things? In my opinion, just doing chords, it's actually a little bit easier to play. Because naturally when you're playing that G, your fingers are kind of slightly crooked anyways, so it just kind of matches the contour of that. I honestly don't notice any playing difference up until about the 15th fret. I don't really know what I'm doing past the 15th fret, so maybe somebody that does is not as bothered by this, but it gets so slanted that's like, oh, not quite too sure about this, but everything else feels normal. You just have the multi-scale length stuff going on. So that's fan frets. The true temperament is those really squiggly frets. That's in order to get your intonation 100% perfect all up and down the neck, because by design, a guitar is flawed. You can never get 100% perfect intonation. So now that we understand that, this is the limited edition Shark guitar. I believe they started these in 2017 and they made 250 of these guys. Most of them were 7 strings, but there were a few 6 strings as well. And they came in 2 finishes. You can get Bloodbath, which is really metal looking, and it's like, yeah, not necessarily my style. So I went with Ocean Dream because I love the wildlife aspect of this, as well as the Shark F-hole and the Shark inlays on the fretboard. But what makes this thing interesting is, it's kind of a Stratocaster shape, not exactly, a little bit distorted. You've got a set bridge that's string through, and it's actually semi-hollow. You can see because they cut a little shark out of here, that's where it got its name. And it utilizes a single coil in the neck and a humbucker in the bridge. You're gonna notice they're all whopper jawed. That's because, you're trying to line up the pole pieces where the harmonics are and things like that. That's actually a necessity, not just a design choice. And you even have a coil splitting on these guys for your bridge pickup, so that's pretty cool. Then as far as construction here, it's actually a set neck guitar with a sculpted out heel. It is super comfortable to play this guitar. I mean, I know it was sent to me for free, right? So this is a slightly sponsored video, but I'm still going to tell you all the truth. You can literally effortlessly play all the way up here. I mean, how many frets does this even have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 16, 20, 26, 27. Okay, so your 28th and 29th fret, they're a little bit hard to get to. Work on that, Ormsby, come on. I don't even know why you need that many frets. But it's definitely a comfortable guitar to play, that's for sure. And then I love the construction here. So I love it when Gibsons do this. It's 3 pieces maple with 2 pieces walnut. They even have our little volute here with locking tuners. I mean, this is a highly spec'd out guitar. And brand new, the 6-string version was around $1,500 give or take. So let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench and take an in-depth look at its parts and specs. All right, inside the Ormsby Shark. So our specs here, this is a chambered out mahogany body. So it starts off solid and they route these chambers in it. Now to me it seems to be like there's just a chamber right here and then another chamber right here for your electronics. So kind of like a semi-hollow guitar. But then they put a maple top on it. You can see how thick it is there. But then they put a premium quilt veneer over top of this. So it's not a solid quilty maple top. That's how they kind of save money. But what I can really appreciate is, you know, it actually does get some movement in the light. It's not completely static like a photo veneer. And I do like on their website that they fully disclose that's what they're doing. Sometimes on Epiphones and other guitars, they can kind of hide that fact. One small thing that I've always thought about this Shark in my time of owning it is I wish they would have took a little bit more time to clean up some of the edges. You can see it's a little bit frayed. That'd be really cool if they bound the Shark, but that would probably be very difficult to do, but that would ensure that those would always be clean then. But moving on to our pickups here, it is a single coil in the neck, and they're calling it the old school Alnico 5 magnet in the neck. And the spec sheet calls it the Apex A5. And then the bridge is considered the Hot Rock A8. And take a look at the way that they do these. I thought that was so strange to see a humbucker without legs because like every single manufacturer makes them with the legs. So instead of using a spring system, they do what a bunch of P90 pickups do. They put a bunch of foam blocks in here. Then you can set the height of the pickup by screwing it down tighter or loosening it up a little bit. But that also makes it tougher for us to see the pickup cavity routes, but it looks like they are very clean from what I can see. And everything is shielded off in there, even in the humbucker route. As far as our controls, it's pretty easy to understand. You got your neck pickup, middle pickup, which is both of them, then your bridge position. The switch definitely feels like one of those overseas styles ones. It has a very satisfying click to it, but at the same time has a certain cheap quality to it. But what I'm really liking are these knobs. I could see more manufacturers using these things. I went ahead and popped one off so you can see what I'm talking about. It feels like a metal style knob, but they have these rubber grippers on it so your fingers don't get cold and it's easy to grab onto them and turn them. I find these incredibly comfortable and it's like one of the features that I most like about this guitar. So moving on from the mahogany body with the maple top, we now have a maple neck with an ebony fretboard. And besides being a multi-scaled guitar, this also has stainless steel frets, which I believe this is the first time I've ever had stainless steel frets. These things are super shiny. Some people don't like the tone that these things produce, but essentially these types of frets are never supposed to wear. At least, you know, for the life of you and the instrument, you'll never have to worry about refretting it again. Unless you have a really heavy hand and you play it every single day, then maybe in 30 years you're supposed to have to get it refretted. Some luthiers don't like using this because it's harder on their tools. They have to use certain ones. But take a look at these little Shark inlays. The only thing that I really have bad to say about this is you can see like some watermarks or something within the fretboard that I was unable to clean. But that's just kind of a minor cosmetic appearance thing here. But I love these inlays. It's so wildlife, and the fact that this thing came from Australia, it's just all perfect for me. But let's elaborate on this multi-scale length thing here a little bit more. So if you start at the low E, remember the nut starts the scale length, and then you go to the 12th fret and you double it, that's going to make it about 27.5 inches. So that's a baritone scale length there. And then as you move this on down, you can see this actually gets closer to the nut, and this also gets closer. So your scale length is going down. So by the time you're all the way to this other E string, at the 12th fret here, it looks like you're around 25.5. So you can see that right there. So we'll just kind of move it across. They just advertise these as 25.5 all the way to 27.5. They don't show you all these other ones. But that certainly does look interesting here. But do not be scared to try one of these things. Even though I'm mainly a traditional guitar player, again, this had no effect on me probably until up here. That's when things got a little bit crazy for me. But you're going to notice the middle of the neck, it's about normal. It's just a little bit goofy up here, so that's probably why I feel that way. So some guys might actually even prefer this, even if they are traditional guitar players. And remember, this is a production Ormsby, not a custom shop one, so that's why it looks like it's been made overseas and has the overseas style truss rod. This is actually made by World Music in Korea, and our truss rod cover reads SXGTR. But take a look at this headstock. I did not notice that until I started reviewing this. That's actually like a rosewood looking veneer here. It's a very, very dark color. That's a nice touch. I just love the natural earth tones of this thing, because it matches well with the ocean water vibe. And these guys have the Ivoroid binding. But as far as neck specs, I think we have to take it diagonally. Wow, 1.79 inch nut width. That's pretty wide. And at the 12th, you're about 2.1. So that's a little bit wider than some, but not too crazy. They call this a D-shaped neck. It starts at 0.87. Then that stays very consistent, 0.88. So it's definitely a slim feeling neck. And yeah, that's definitely a D-shaped neck as they advertise. It doesn't quite have as much shoulders like those Epiphones I review when I tell you I don't like the D-shape. This is a version that I actually do kind of like. And it's mainly because there's a little bit more of a contour right here. And for this style of guitar, it feels like you'd be doing more shreddy stuff, so most of these guys have their finger on the back of the neck anyways. So this is definitely a spec akin to those guys. Before we put this together, the only playability issue I was having is there's definitely some pinging in this nut, so I'm going to go ahead and lubricate that. This is like the classic Ormsby headstock shape. I would have preferred if they would have done one of those harpoon style ones on this one, because I feel that kind of matches the whole ocean vibe that this thing has. But this kind of has a cool little hook vibe to it as well. As far as our pickup readings, that's a pretty hot humbucker, almost 12k ohms. Our neck position, it's about right, 6.63, and within the middle, about half of those, 4.3. Now, moving on to the back. Hey, wait a minute. Where even is the output jack for this guitar? I don't see it anywhere. Is this just a semi-hollow acoustic with electric pickups just to throw you off? No, this is one of those cool ones that I've talked about sometimes, where they put it in the side of the instrument. Like, it's actually in the back. They recess a little cavity right there. That's actually a really cool feature. So if you use a wireless unit, you could just make it look like your guitar's not plugged in and freak people out. I love that feature. But it is a string-through design with the ferrules in there. You've got that comfort carve right there for your belly. And again, they just sculpt away all that wood into this neck. But something else that they also do to make this comfy is it's a complete gloss finish on the body, on the top, even the face of the headstock. But this is like one of those semi-gloss satin finishes. So it's not quite a full satin. It still has a little bit of shininess feel to it. But it definitely helps you not stick to the neck. So that is a nice feature. Sure does look like walnut to me though, but a beautifully figured neck. I was not expecting that, so that was a pleasant surprise here. Well, let's go ahead and pop this control cavity. So it looks like everything's shielded off in here as well. You've got a Korean pot in there and just kind of a standard push-pull style right there, so you can split that bridge humbucker into a single coil if you want to. So, I mean, you could probably make a few upgrades in this control cavity. I'm really digging that output jack location though. That's kind of cool. But the Korean pot makes sense because you can see right here where it was manufactured by World Music Instruments Company. But another really nice high performance feature here is Ormsby branded locking tuners. So let's take a look here. You've got locking tuners, you got the whole multi-scale thing, and that's a straight string pull design. So that is definitely a well-made guitar as far as making sure it all stays in tune. So if you're into these high performance non-traditional guitars, I think you probably would like one of these things. And it's looking to me like a three-piece body. So you've got one down here where the light is, then your next piece, and then your next piece from there. And our last spec to capture, it's a little hard to see, but it's 7 pounds, 1.6 ounces. So definitely pretty lightweight. So let's go ahead, plug this thing in, and hear how it sounds. that we know everything about the Ormsby Shark guitar, what are my final thoughts on this thing? I'm impressed with how well built this guitar is. You guys know how in-depth and detail I go looking for little tiny things. The only things I could find was a little bit of wood splintering on the Shark, and somebody got a little bit haphazard right there with the shielding paint. You can see they just barely got it on the top. But that's all I could find cosmetic-wise. The wood stock that these guys are made of appears to be pretty nice. I mean, once again, beautiful flame maple neck transitioning into, yes, it's a 3-piece mahogany body. I'm sure a custom shop one would have less pieces, but they matched it pretty well. And despite being a veneer, that's pretty nice. But as far as the tones go, that's what really shocked me about this guitar. I mean, despite, this being a single coil, it didn't quite sound like a regular single coil in my opinion. So it wasn't quite as shrill as some single coils can be, but some people want a single coil just for that. It still has some of those capabilities, it's just not quite the same. But that humbucker, oh man, that's great. It's got this full rounded girthiness to it. It's really boom in your face. I like that. But this whole coil split's kind of a godsend because of that though, because you might not always want that. You probably want some more attack for your genty stuff. So I found that to be a great tonal shifter right here. And something else I just want to talk about is where the gloss finish meets the satin finish. I'm not quite sure how they do that. They must perfectly mask it off because it's an even transition. I mean, once you go from here, it goes from satin to that high gloss. But it is a very comfortable ride. The only thing I did not really like about this guitar is the toggle switch location. I feel like it's too much in the line of your volume knob. I found myself hitting that occasionally. If they could move that up here, this would be a very fun guitar for me. But then you kind of have a Les Paul Stratocaster mixed thing going on, and I'm sure I'm alone on that. But I feel like if you're doing like the tapping stuff and you needed to quickly change positions, it would be right there. So should you buy one of these guitars? I think it comes down to what kind of guitar player are you? Are you more of a collector like me that just likes limited edition things, or are you all about performance? Because this is a high performance guitar. And at the same price point at the Gibson lineup, you'd be looking at something like an original collection Les Paul Special. Both of them great guitars. I think it just depends on what you want. The fan fret thing, it's not going to be for everyone. Stainless steel frets, it's not going to be for everyone. But it's cool to know that these options are out there, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to check one of these things out. Will I only be reviewing fan fret guitars from here on out? Probably not, but I can definitely see why some people enjoy them. I didn't not like it, except for in the upper registers. So let's go ahead and check this thing out under Blacklight. Now this is actually really cool because it turns into like a burnt color. It's like a super glowing, kind of like somebody sweated all over it, but that's just because of the color. And then it turns into a nice glow right there. That's a really interesting Blacklight test for this one. Must be something to do with the finish that they use that makes it glow so much even early on in life. But everything's definitely looking good on this one, that's for sure. These guys actually do come stock with cases. They're branded Ormsby guitars. And the outside of the case has like a natural sheen to it. And we've got 3 latches here and a single handle with case keys attached to it. And on the inside, this is the only thing I think that they could work on a little bit. It's just kind of a boring gray color. I feel like the limited edition guitars could have came with something cooler. But a nice little feature that Ormsby does do. I'm not sure if every single one gets a shirt. That might have just been because I got it. But I'm sure everybody gets a truss rod wrench. And setting up tools, a Ormsby pick. That's kind of cool. I like that it has the shark on it. But even their reverb listings state that they all come with the strap. That's nice. Because it's blue, it matches the guitar. I would have used it, but I kind of forgot it was in the case. So I hope you troglodytes enjoyed getting to take a look at the Ormsby Shark guitar. If you are interested in one of these, you can check out their reverb shop. I'll put a link in the description. I've got to keep this one though because my kids think it's the baby shark guitar. And I guess they're right. It's got a bunch of sharks. I wish I would have thought of that before. I could have played that in the playing demo. I guess one more thing before we say goodbye. I love the arm contour right here. That is a nice little feature that you can't necessarily see in their stock photos. Cool. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.